I never thought I'd see the day I'd say this, but Netflix is beginning to be good. Extraction 2 was directed by Daniel Hargrave and once again stars Chris Hemsworth in the leading role. And here, Chris Hemsworth's character returns after his last mission, and this time comes even closer to ever to meeting his fate. However, he's sent out on his most dangerous mission yet, a mission to recover a gangster's family, which sees twists and turns that no one could see coming, and high-octane action. I was kind of on the fence about seeing a second movie for Extraction. The first one I actually loved. It's one of my favorite modern action films I've seen in a while, and usually when I have a movie that good, I'm always curious if they can catch lightning in a bottle twice. In this case, they definitely did with the second film, and honestly, if they're going to keep being this good, I'd love to see a third one. This film is very, very good. I wouldn't say it's as good as the first one. I'd say it's just a little bit under, but nevertheless, it packs all the action I want to see with just enough story along the way to keep it going. And honestly, it's Chris Hemsworth's performance in here that really helps the film go. Because Chris Hemsworth's performance is essentially three parts in here. He is one part, which is what he largely is most of the time, a dialogue guy who has to talk, he has to emote, be an actor. He has to do that part. But after that, he has to do his second part, which is all the physical stuff. He has to be convincing in the scenes, he has to sell it, he has to be good at it, and he has to be precise and look like a man who actually knows what he's doing in those circumstances. And then comes the third part, and something I don't think is talked about enough. And the third part of this is Chris Hemsworth has to kind of shake but keep both of those shells, but be a character. And what I mean by that is there's a difference between having someone who is a hero, who is, a real everyman, and they have to be a character someone would say like John Wick or something like this, and that's kind of what he's portraying in here, and he does all of them very, very well. The action here is extremely satisfying. There is the highly publicized long take that we have in here. It's brilliant to watch. The action is violent, fast-paced, well choreographed, tight, and impressive all throughout, whether it just be a fight scene or larger-than-life stunts, because there are some stunts in here that genuinely impressed me and blew me out of the water, particularly one revolving some vehicles. I really was impressed by this movie, and the fact that this is going straight to Netflix and not getting a theatrical release, I actually think is kind of a shame. It's really solid stuff in here, and I think the movie sells itself on having a story. It's good, it's entertaining, but essentially it's this, keep going. There are some twists and turns in the sense that something could go wrong, or we find something else out new that we didn't know before, but it's primarily just this, do it, boom, done. And that's why this movie's brilliant. It knows not to try to go over the top and have this deep plot with metaphor. You don't need all that. Now, another thing this thing really does well, though, is tell stories in the fights. These fights aren't just fights. There's a story going on during it. The fight move has something to say. The choreography has something to say. And this movie's really great with that. I can just talk about the action all day in here. However, I'm really talking about more than that. The supporting cast in here does a very good job. I was just very, very impressed by them. I'd say everyone is pretty good. I don't know, this movie just didn't have a performance to me that blasted out the water and stood out. I mainly just was a big fan of how Chris Hemsworth was in here. But this also goes what I have to say. If Chris Hemsworth can go and do so many movies, he's such a versatile actor, I'm really hoping to see him in more. The music score in here is okay. It kind of feels generic action movie-esque, but that's about one of the few negatives I have in here, aside from the fact that when I said the plot was basic and things, it is just that it's very generic at times. Essentially, it's to get to each set piece, but sometimes the links between those set pieces aren't necessarily the best, and it can come across as cheesy, very tried and true that we've seen before, sometimes just boring. This movie has trouble with trying to balance all that, I think, sometimes, and the pacing at times can be jarring because of that. And sometimes some action sequences go on a little too long, and after a while, you have so much action, it's okay. But for the most part, everything lands. That's not the majority of the film. The majority of the film is a very entertaining action flick with very satisfying cinematography and lighting and stunt work and effects put to good use with a team that really knew their business. I would recommend you see this movie, especially considering it's on Netflix, and if you haven't already, it's easy to watch. It's something, it's a great popcorn film to watch at home on your TV. It's a blast from start to finish. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's something that we haven't seen enough of. I'm going to give Extraction 2 a 7 out of 10. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see y'all next time.